Our next speaker is in person, and you may have already spoken to Gail already at lunch or at morning tea. And so it's Gail Hilton from Childhood Dementia Initiative Australia. Childhood Dementia Initiative started in November 2020 in Sydney and is the first organisation in the world representing more than 70 rare genetic conditions that cause dementia in children. The organisation was set up by Megan Donnell, the former founder and CEO of San Filippo Children's Foundation, with three major goals in mind: to increase awareness and advocacy, accelerate therapeutic development, and to improve care and quality of life. Today, Gail will be providing an overview of childhood dementia, including the definition and stats. Then the presentation will explore the goals and objectives of the Childhood Dementia Initiative, and we'll look at the progress over the last 18 months. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. That's all right. I'm feeling a little nervous, so apologies if I'm a bit shaky, and I've also provided a clunky presentation for the AV guys at the back of the room, so if it's not as seamless as others, I apologise, but that's real life, I guess. Firstly, a huge thank you for inviting me to be here. It's a real pleasure to be in a room full of experts, which all of you guys are, and to listen and learn from everyone that's spoken today. As I was introduced, my role is Head of Programmes, Service, Care and Quality of Life at the Childhood Dementia Initiative, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that means later through the presentation. This is a presentation actually that Deanna will be really familiar with. She has been a part of a project. We received some funding from the Department of Health back in 2021 to develop some information modules, and we have tried to create them so that they work for a really broad audience, because as you guys will well know, most people have no idea about anything to do with any of these rare genetic causes of childhood dementia, and childhood dementia in ways is new language, or it's new language for an old problem that we are trying to create some real attention and change in, which I'll talk about. So Deanna's been involved in some elements of this presentation I'll go through, and then I'll talk about the progress that we have made as an organisation to date. So if I can just, I have a clicker, do I? Is it this? You can tell I'm very not practiced at all. The big green button.
That's the laser pointer?
That's, but it also works. It's because I've been presenting on Zoom for 2 years, right? This is one of my first face-to-face ones. So by way of overview, so I'll go through what is childhood dementia defined by us as an organisation, a bit about the facts and the symptoms, a little bit about living with childhood dementia and the work that we are doing and want to do more of to be able to understand that, to talk to other people and draw, again, more attention to this whole space of children and young adult health. And then some more about the Childhood Dementia Initiative and what we have achieved so far and what we're hoping to achieve. So I'll first hand over to this 3-minute video. You can find this on YouTube. Feel free to send it far and wide if you like it. And we are also open to any feedback at any point in time through the presentation. Feel free to heckle. Afterwards, I'll be hanging around, and I'm always available on email.
Childhood and dementia. Two words that shouldn't go together, but sadly, they do. Sadder still is that on average, childhood dementia takes a life every 11 minutes. It also takes away the future. So, what is childhood dementia? Childhood dementia results from progressive brain damage caused by over 70 genetic conditions. Just like adults with dementia, children with dementia experience memory loss and confusion. They have difficulty concentrating, understanding, learning and communicating. And they can experience severely disturbed sleep and personality changes too. They can also have behavioural and emotional issues like hyperactivity, anxiety and fear. Each child's experience with dementia is unique. For some, symptoms can appear when they are babies and progress quickly, while for others, they may not appear until they are teenagers. Across all childhood dementia, however, there is one common feature: childhood dementia is progressive. This means that over months, years, or decades, children progressively lose skills they may have already developed, like the ability to write, read, talk, walk, and play. Over time, their brains also lose the ability to keep the body functioning properly and, eventually, to keep the body alive. There has been so little investment and therefore limited research into treating childhood dementia. Because of this, most children with childhood dementia die before turning 18. Families impacted by childhood dementia experience many losses. Most significantly, the child loses their future. They lose the opportunity to grow up and experience their adult life. So, how common is childhood dementia? 1 in 2,800 babies are born with a condition that causes childhood dementia. It's estimated that currently 700,000 children and young people globally are living with childhood dementia. So what can be done? Well, the first step is happening right now. By making people aware of childhood dementia, we can improve diagnosis, care, research, and quality of life for children and young people with dementia around the world. Together, we can make change.
Board and your current.
So, childhood dementia, as you heard in that video, it results from progressive brain damage caused by more than 70 genetic conditions. Niemann-pick is one of those conditions. Others that are included under this umbrella are Sanfilippo syndrome, Batten disease, some of the mitochondrial disorders. It's a long list. You can find it on our website, and that list is actually being reviewed by our Scientific and Medical Advisory Committee, and they suspect that that will grow to more than 150 rare genetic conditions. The power of this is that together we can create some attention. And here, Dementia Australia, who've just recently recognised childhood dementia as a type of dementia affecting Australians. Dementia describes a collection of symptoms that are caused by disorders affecting the brain. It's not one specific disease. And in fact, if you consider ageing dementia, there's more than 100 causes of ageing dementia, and they suspect there's actually many more. So this is about looking at what is happening for children, what the collection of symptoms that are happening, rather than the underlying cause of disease. And that is a change for the health system and for health professionals, looking at the presentation and what the child and family need. What it means is that we can get some economies of scale and draw attention, as I keep saying the word attention, but that's really what we're all here trying to do, right? To get extra funding, to get more research, it's all about attention. So to be able to say that 1 in 2,800 babies are born with a condition, people start thinking, oh, that's actually not all that rare. A childhood dementia across the world takes a life every 11 minutes. These are statistics that are just not acceptable, and we're finding that they're really compelling. This actually has some cut through when we're talking to people, whether that be government, health professionals, funders. 700,000 children and young people around the world have childhood dementia. What this translates to in Australia is around 90 deaths in this country, and that's comparable to the number of children that are dying of childhood cancer. And we all know how much progress has happened in the childhood cancer space, and what we very much have hope for is that we can mirror some of that, and with the right level of resources we can create some serious progress in this space as well. So, as I said, this is not new language, and I know that within the Niemann-pick community you guys talk about dementia quite often as part of the disease progression, and that's not the same case with all of the causes of childhood dementia. So In some cases, there will be patients and their families who have never considered their condition as dementia before. So there is quite a bit of change that we need to encourage across the health sector to take on some of this language. What we do hear from families is once they hear the language, it gives them something to explain what is happening for their child to their community, and they get better support, they get response that's understanding what's going on, rather than, some of these rare conditions have some very obscure names, as you'll all be familiar with, and people just don't get it sometimes. The language was first defined 20 years ago by a neuropsychiatrist in Sydney, Kenneth Nunn, and his team, which also includes Katrina Williams from Monash Children's here. They define childhood dementia as characterised by enduring and progressive loss of previously acquired developmental skills, and that definition continues. We started the Childhood Dementia Initiative in response to a burden study which outlines all of this. So for the scientists in the room and those really interested in the research, if you go to our website, you can find the burden study and all of this documented in a more scientific way than maybe I'm presenting. So here I'm just going to show a brief video from Professor Schofield, who's on our Scientific and Medical Advisory Committee. He's the CEO of Neuroscience Research Australia, and he talks about the benefits of considering this group of diseases together as childhood dementia.
In my professional experience, I've been working with dementia for many years, particularly inherited forms of dementia, which in that form are referred to as early onset Alzheimer's disease. But we're talking about people who have illness in their 30s, 40s, 50s instead of in old age. Well, childhood dementia is just a whole nother take on this problem. It's been a fantastic way of integrating many different rare diseases with a unifying focus that enable us to see the common problem that families, the individual kids with childhood dementia have to live with. It's also a way that we can bring the research community together, because there's now a clearer, more common focus.
I always love hearing Peter talk and use that word unifying. There will always be a role for specific research into specific diseases and mechanisms of disease and the causes of disease. What we are looking at are the commonalities and the things that bring these set of conditions together. So there will always be the unique role and the need for patient organisations that specifically look at diseases like the NPCD Foundation. But I think there is some work that we can do collectively to more broadly tackle this issue. So, as everybody here knows, every experience of childhood dementia is unique. These are some of, again, looking at the common features of what dementia might mean for a child. Confusion, severely disturbed sleep, memory loss, personality changes, hallucinations, emotional issues like anxiety and fear, trouble concentrating, understanding, learning, communicating, and behavioural issues such as hyperactivity. All, as you can tell, the same common features as ageing dementia as well. Children may be diagnosed early in infancy, progressing rapidly and dying in the first year of life, or other children may develop symptoms later in childhood, late teenage years or early adulthood, which progress relatively slowly and might survive much later in life. Around 75% of children will die before the age of 18. The mean age, when we look at all of the causes of childhood dementia, is around 28, and some much younger. So again, there's some differences there, but we will continue to focus on the common aspects of this, and that is that all of these conditions are life-limiting and none of them have cures. So moving on to a bit more around living with childhood dementia. When we run this module, and we're talking to an audience who doesn't know anything about the disease, we talk about this and show some videos. I figured everybody here probably has much more of a sense of what living with childhood dementia might mean. The piece, I guess, that I'm interested in is beginning to really get some research and literature around this so that we can campaign and advocate for change in systems and services that need to happen. We have a team at UNSW who are working on a systematic review as a first start. None of this will be surprising to you guys. Families face extensive challenges when navigating their child's care, accessing timely therapies and connecting with healthcare professionals who are knowledgeable regarding their child's condition. You guys, half of you could probably write what is on this slide. Parents acquire multiple roles involving complex responsibilities such as management of the disease and caring for siblings while simultaneously grieving losses associated with the child's deterioration. In 2 to 3 months, we're going to have the full findings of the systematic review, which I hope will be published, and it will be some of the first literature specifically around childhood dementia, and it will be the platform from which we build a whole set of broader suite of psychosocial evidence, which will help inform things like frameworks for care, which I know you guys are talking about later. So, the burden study I mentioned earlier was published in 2020, and that had been commissioned by Megan Donnell, who had founded the Sanfilippo Children's Foundation. She's a mum of 2 children herself that are diagnosed with Sanfilippo syndrome. And what she had observed for quite some time is that there are small patient organisations like the Sanfilippo Children's Foundation, like the Australian NPCD Foundation, BDRSA. You know, there's about 10 patient organisations in Australia working in this space, which also means there's a whole lot of diseases that are not represented by a patient organisation. And sometimes there's only 1 or 2 patients in a country, and those patients don't have any representation. So that's again been why some of what we have done has been beneficial. We've been a place to come for people who haven't had connections otherwise. So Meg had seen firstly that there were a number of conditions where, you know, the symptoms and what was happening for children was quite similar. She also saw the fact that there were many different small organisations trying to create some change, and she thought working together was going to be the way that this would be able to get some traction and fast track some change. And so she was the one who commissioned the burden study to look more deeply in what's happening in Australia around childhood dementia. And that burden study started, the response to that was us starting the Childhood Dementia Initiative, and it's really been the cornerstone, I guess, to getting a whole lot of attention across government and funders, policymakers and so on. This was the video that we regularly play to all sorts of audiences to explain about what something needs to be done, why something needs to be done about childhood dementia.
Hi, my name is Bobby Riddle. I am the mother of Taylor, who is 7 years old. My daughter has childhood dementia caused by Batten disease.
Hi, my name is Karen, and I have twin daughters, Amelia and Mackenzie, who have childhood dementia due to juvenile Batten disease.
My name's Anna, and I'm the mother of Sebi, who had childhood dementia caused by Tay-Sachs disease.
My name is Kelly, and I'm mum to Penny. Penny has childhood dementia, which is caused by Sanfilippo syndrome.
Childhood dementia is watching and caring for your child as they die in slow motion.
Childhood dementia is when your daughter asks who you are.
Childhood dementia is every parent's worst nightmare. We've had to watch our beautiful 7-year-old daughter lose the ability to run, to walk, to dance. She's lost cognitive skills, so she can no longer count or sing her favourite nursery rhymes. She's lost the ability to speak. She's going blind. She's finding it harder and harder to recognise family and friends. The Childhood Dementia Initiative is the key to solving this problem. There is so little knowledge and research being done in this area, and we need to be able to invest in it to be able to give our children and parents hope for the future.
An end to childhood dementia would mean that thousands of families all over the world could continue to live their lives normally and without fear of the future.
An end to childhood dementia would save other families the heartbreak of watching their children suffer as their minds slip away.
for any parent with a child with a neurodegenerative disease is all that we could ever wish for.
An end to childhood dementia would mean that these children are able to live the lives that they deserve to live.
So these videos are available on our YouTube channel. Use them. We are an organisation that is about sharing and collaboration, feedback. Use them. Use any of these resources that are useful to you in whatever guise they might be, and give us feedback as to what else you think we all need. So the Childhood Dementia Initiative started. I can't believe we made that video 2 years ago, and it feels like we are already in a bit of a different zone with what we have learned and the connections that we've made. And I look around the room and I know that so many of you guys have been involved in our work so far as well. Our focus as an organisation, and you will have got a sense that in that last video there are families from around the world. Meg, our CEO, very much sees this childhood dementia as a global issue that needs a global solution. She is an incredibly ambitious woman, a total gun, and I think that is where we see ourselves moving in a relatively short space of time. Our focus, we have 3 areas of focus. So to increase awareness and advocacy, and that really underpins everything that we do. If people are not aware of the diseases that cause childhood dementia, we can't create any change. Our goals are to accelerate therapeutic development and to improve the care and quality of life. And you will all have your own take on what that means for you and what the needs are, and we're really keen to hear that. And I'll talk about how you can be involved as I explain about our progress, what we're doing in these areas. So we started in November 2020, which is about 18 months ago. Our first goal in the first year was for the Department of Health to recognise childhood dementia as something that they recognise as terminology and would put some, either their money or their mouth, preferably both. So in March this year, we held a childhood dementia symposium. Yahoy was there, and maybe others in the room. And Greg Hunt opened with an address and recognised childhood dementia at that address. The Department of Health, as I also mentioned, has also funded the development of some of these videos and this set of information modules that we're working on. So we've got some recognition at the top of government. Childhood dementia has also recently, in the last month or so, been recognised by Dementia Australia as a type of dementia, which also we're very much hoping that what that means is a real trickle down through the dementia world. And I don't know if I should say this, but I'm always interested in where the money is, because money means we can invest and make change, and ageing dementia has a lot of money. So I'm hoping that some of that can get directed ultimately to this area of disease. We have quite a lot on around, again, building the awareness across the sector, and this I suppose is more my area in care and quality of life. We'll be presenting, so childhood dementia will be represented for the first time at an international dementia conference. That's in Sydney later this year. We also have a panel discussion at the National Paediatric Palliative Care Conference, and I'm presenting at a New South Wales Regional Health Conference and Queensland Paediatric Health Conference. And we have a couple of other abstracts in as well. So we're really hoping that, now that we have a load of resources and some of the evidence behind us, we can start rolling this out and it become more and more common language that's used. I talked about these resources being Department of Health funded, and our intention is to sort of go and roll those out as information sessions around the country. We have one up in the Gold Coast at the end of July, and we're actually aiming to present to a whole set of different sectors, and that might largely, actually, the one in July, it looks like it will be disability, the disability sector, and increasing understanding of childhood dementia in that space. And part of our awareness every year, we've claimed the 22nd of September as Childhood Dementia Day. We run a Face It campaign, which is around awareness. It does drive from funds as well, but that's really about getting people recognising this as a health priority. In the therapeutic development side of things, and we've heard so much about the vital areas of work that are happening in the niemann-pick C world, and I know I was really excited to listen to Yahoi's research in mRNA, and as she says, gene therapy just has so much promise, and a lot of what we are doing, I guess, is looking at how we can support and enable researchers to collaborate, share findings, share some of the really expensive technology to look across a number of conditions so that we can have as much impact as possible. So we hosted the world first childhood dementia symposium at the beginning of the year. I mentioned about Greg Hunt being there. What Greg Hunt did at that symposium is announced a $3 million MRFF round specifically for childhood dementia. So it's a start, as we all know. It's a drop in the ocean when it comes to medical research, but the fact is it's a starting point, and we're in early stages, and it's a place that we can now really go and begin to show how much research is ready to go in this space and what sort of resources are needed as well. There's around 8 to 10 projects, I think, that are going to move forward and be put forward through that round that we're aware of. And I know Deanna has a few emails in her inbox from our head of research asking the NPCD Foundation to be involved. They are, just to give you a sense, one of the applications that I've been involved with is Pain Check, looking at how we can use an app that can be used on children's faces to see what sort of levels of pain they might be in. Pain is such an essential part of dementia, and children can't communicate that to us. We have also put together a childhood dementia knowledge base that will be accessible by all, but largely used by researchers, the science community, clinicians, that provide a whole lot of data about each of those 70 conditions so that they can be compared, they can be grouped, we can look at common features and so on. So for any of the science community and medical community who want to join our research alliance, you can head to our website and connect. Give me your card today. I think most people here are probably already involved. And the care and quality of life side of things. So I've mentioned about Dementia Australia. We heard from Dementia Support Australia. So their service is around behavioural support. They go into the home, and the information that they give can also be really useful for anybody else that's coming into the home and caring, or speech therapists, OTs, community nurses, totally dependent on what's happening for that child and family. But what I've heard, the feedback from some families is saying that it's actually been the most useful and practical service they've experienced in their whole child's progression through their disease. So I think, if you're interested to explore what that service might look like, just give them a call. Like, it's free, and suss it out. I'm really interested to hear any feedback as well. The big piece of progress that we have made, although it is still pending funding, which the UNSW team assure me looks really promising, is a really significant piece of work around the psychosocial needs of families and their experience of the health and social care services. What does that mean? What it means is we are looking at doing a really big study of families, what's been happening for that family, what the impacts of caring for a child are, hopefully across all members of the family, including siblings, and how health and social care systems have worked really well and where they might not have worked so well. That piece of research will be published papers, but it will all work towards developing a national framework for care for childhood dementia. And we're doing that in partnership with Dementia Australia, Dementia Support Australia, Palliative Care Australia, and Rare Voices Australia, who have all been really keen to get on board. So again, it just gives that sense of the groundswell of the level of organisations that are actually beginning to put some action, and in some cases some money, into making some change here. So that's pending an NHMRC partnership grant, which we hope to be able to announce later this year. And as my CEO says, if we don't get that grant, we will find that money from somewhere else. That work will be supported by a National Childhood Dementia Care Alliance that beginning to kick off in the next couple of months, which will be a group of key health and social care professionals who are a part of the community already. They probably really understand childhood dementia. They're probably great at what they're doing. They're probably really awesome advocates in this space. They are ideally influencers in policy and practice, and keen to be a part of shaping that psychosocial research and then making change. So if any of you guys know people that you would like to be on that alliance, please let me know and I can go and tap some people on the shoulder, and there might be some people in this room who are keen to be involved in that. So we have the formal evidence base there in the psychosocial needs. We have the voice and the involvement of clinicians and health and social care professionals. Most importantly, and I should really start with this because it is about underpinning everything that we do, is the voice of lived experience. We have a childhood dementia advocates program set up, and I think many of you are actually already involved in that and have been involved in various ways of how to be involved in this organisation and the work we're doing. We are all about championing lived experience, bringing it together and using it to advocate for the changes that you guys want and need. And that might simply be around large-scale funding happening in this space. I say simply, but we need everybody's voice. So if you're not a part of the Advocates Programme, please come and join up. There is no obligation whatsoever, and hopefully everyone who is a part of it here, you'll receive some opportunities as to how you can be involved once a month. You can delete that email, you can respond to it and say, it's far too much on my plate, you can just ignore it, or you can get involved with every opportunity that month. We know that life is happening all the time, and so if you're just dipping in and dipping out, and people have different things that they're interested in. So the sorts of things that come your way are being a part of project teams and advisory groups like Deanna is. We've had one family here generously share their story for a fundraising appeal and really heavy on social media. There is research and there's research proposals. We don't just need or want families to be involved in the research. I know you guys have that probably all the time being asked, but we need you guys to shape what those research proposals even look like and tell us what is the research that needs to be done. So there's lots of work. We're hoping to recruit somebody who will actually manage across our whole lived experience, and I will be asking for people to come and help me with the job description of what that should look like and help me recruit that person. So, but I also need your feedback as to, what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well. It's really over to you to help us be as good as we can be. I will stop talking. People do tell me I like the sound of my own voice, and you guys have been listening to people all day. Any questions or comments?
Any questions, Dee?
Don't give me that face.
She always asks the difficult questions.
No, I actually had a real easy one. So you talked about the research into the psychosocial that's happening. Do you also use any of the current results that have already happened? So, obviously everyone's in some way or another already answered the question of what it's like to live with it.
So the systematic review has picked up all of the research that has happened, which might be very disease specific, yes. How the research is then, the next big project is set up, I don't know the answer to that. They will use as much data that is published as they possibly can, and it will be about filling gaps, because yes, I totally understand, people have answered lots already, but that is something we will have a panel of families that will work alongside that research to dictate some of that as well, because I think it's really important feedback. We can't just keep asking the same questions over and over again. Yeah.
You have another question?
So great presentation. I was just asking, you said that a lot of patients are not actually represented by certain support groups such as the NPC Foundation. Do you have a plan on how you can reach out to these people that currently don't have any advocates or kind of alone in their journey?
Oh, Ellie, it's a good question. Look, this is, do we have a plan? Probably, my honest answer to that would be no. At the moment, we are working incredibly leanly as a team. We know it's a gap. So what we have currently is a forum by which we bring together all of the current patient organisations. So it's kind of, okay, we have our connections there. Those people who are, you know, kind of out without any connection, we've got a couple of challenges, right? So firstly, that nobody might have used the words childhood dementia with that group. So they might not actually be thinking, oh, this is an organisation who could represent me or who could. So we've got some really, that's the broad awareness piece, I suppose. So our plan is around raising that awareness across the board, rolling out these information modules to health and social care professionals around, and really beginning the whole groundswell, which is again where people like Dementia Australia will help in some of that work. So we need to raise awareness of childhood dementia. We need to then help families potentially connect with the fact that, this is actually what's happening for my child, which also means we need health professionals to start using the language as well. So I suppose there's a few prongs to it. Yes, a plan will come. And next time I'm presenting to you, there will be a plan.
Ellie will hold you to that.
Thank you. Do.